Open up the meeting of the Finance Committee. I'm not sure as Derek is online, so I'm going to take a roll call. Kyle Pike here.
Marcia Meekins here.
Deborah Moran here.
Michael Cowett here.
David Fuller here.
Thank you.
I don't think that Derek is online yet, but we do have a quorum since we have 5 out of the 6 members. We still have an opening for one more member, anybody who wants to sign up. I think the first thing we'll do tonight, go into the warrant package that was handed out to you. And it's Article 6, the leaching field debt expense reallocation. The sewer commissioners here, Elaine and Brian, have volunteered to be here to give an explanation. I see Commissioner number 3 online, it looks like. And we have the superintendent here. So let me just say the way I understand it, and then we'll ask for a little more detail. That the new leaching fields are costing the project $8,269,245 that you see in the article there. What this article is asking town meeting to do is to vote to have 1/3 of the annual debt service cost. The annual debt service cost will be $413,462, which includes principal and interest, is to have 1/3 of that, $137,820 annually paid by the general population. The remaining $275,642 annually to be paid by us sewer users. So with that, I will ask Elaine and Brian to make their comments. And
Okay, I just handout that basically from last night's selections meeting. It's giving you a very brief history of how we got here today. One of them is a letter from 1988 from somebody in the Nook who explains the dire situations down there with having municipal sewer. And then that segues into a facility plan that was done in 1998. And this really came to light when Brian got on board and we started looking at past history. Because Brian, and he can speak for himself, just to segue into all of it, kept saying the town's supposed to be paying 1/3 for everything. So go back in time, again, 1997, there's an environmental notification form that basically says that describes all the phases of the sewer projects that we've had. Phase 1 and phase 2, which is the 2 original tanks. Phase 2 being described in here is what we call our planned expansion. And then it also mentions the Davis property as an alternate site for disposal as the Indian Pond Estates. Leaching field was, as Brian has explained to me, was temporary until another site could be found. So that's the big picture. And since this plan was discussed, developed, and adopted in 1997, we're at this point saying that the vote that the town took back in 1997 to fund 1/3, 2/3, if we're going by these documentations, would include what's been already done. But right now, we're just looking to see if the town would support paying 1/3 of the leaching field debt. We're going back and forth with legal counsel today on the Article 6 is a simple article. It's asking for the allocation for FY26 budget. We've been asking, how do we make, if that is favorable, how do we make that a commitment for 20 years? And Jay says we can't. So I went back to the original language of the leaching field article. I got the meeting minutes that the town clerk puts together. And it basically says it's a general obligation of the town. With the intent being, betterments connection fees, but there's also a statement that says. Except to the extent any treatment capacity is reserved for town purposes. In which case, a portion of the annual debt service proportional to the amount of treatment capacity reserved for town purposes during that same annual period shall be payable in the first instance from the general fund. And I know there's a lot of conversation, was mentioned last night, how I promised that the town wouldn't be paying for anything. That statement I own, and I own it for the plan expansion. The leaching fields were not part of that conversation. I did say that the plan expansion would be paid for by those parties that wanted to purchase capacity. We are managing that debt outside of this request. This request is a totally different project, the leaching field project. We haven't, closed the door on trying to see what this language in the article does for a 20-year debt. So that's the gist of it. The article in front of us, in front of you right now, is for FY 26. So,
And having read that original one way back when, it sounds to me like today's council would have said that that's not binding for year after year after year
right,
either.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
interesting.
and the conversation for that was you can't appropriate money for 20 years. And I totally understand each year it needs to be appropriated, which we do in our budget article each year when we say X comes from the tax levy. So I'm not questioning that at all.
I've often, kind of an aside here, said that all of this where we have to recognize or vote every year for debt service. Is there any chance that a town like Kingston would ever say, no, we're not gonna pay those bills from that we incurred this for 20-year, 30-year debt? It's something wrong with the system when I have to vote every year to pay my debt service, which I committed to 20 years ago or 2 years ago. Anyhow. That's kind of an aside. So, Brian, do you want to add anything to what?
Just a couple
Elaine?
things, history context is really important. The council at the time, as we said, made that decision. I went back and reached out to the town administrator at the time, Kevin Donovan, who I know pretty well, and confirmed that that was done, and it was very clearly understood going forward for that original debt in phase one, which put all the sewers in, and he confirmed to me that was, that was what was done, and he didn't offer anything on what happened more recently because he wasn't around it.
Sure.
So I mean, like I said, knucklehead shows up and messes everything up here, so. But that's what happened, and there were a lot of town history, a lot of time was spent in making these decisions. It wasn't easy. It spent 10 years of planning, people here. Unfortunately, half of them are gone.
Sure.
But as you go around, if you ask people in the Nook about this, you'll get the answer that we were talking about. But as Elaine said, the decision going forward in 2017-18 for the phase two, the balance of the plant, which was delayed because of a lot of other context issues, the recession in 2007, other things that went on in the economy, then we needed to have it to pay off the whole thing and to solve the problem of the environmental degradation and public health. So that's how we got back to where we are now. And right now, at least taking it 1 year at a time. And I'll shut up.
Does any finance committee member have any questions or comments to make?
I have comments.
Go right ahead.
Always have
I
comments,
welcome
right?
them.
So here's my thing on this.
Yeah.
So I voted in favor of the leaching field. Right? And I was at the town meeting and they all at this point start to blend together.
Yeah,
And I have not had time to go back and watch the tail of the tape. However, as I remember this leaching field vote, the dueling sides were more about if we don't do, if we let the prospective buyer buy that land, they're gonna build 200 houses. And there was the whole issue with overpopulation in the town. That was like the one side, right? And then the other side was the environmental side and a bunch of other things too, right? But off the top of my head, I know what you're talking about. And I remember that. And I don't remember the leaching fields meeting. And maybe it wasn't even raised, and shame on us for not raising it, or someone in the audience raising it. How's this thing getting paid for? I always thought, or if I remember from that meeting, I think you were hoping on new users, right? And continued growth to help do this. But now with the water issue, we don't have that. I can't go back to the beginning and the 1/3 from way back. Another thing, so, and I get where you're slicing this up. Different projects, plan expansion, but I don't follow that. You can't have one with the other. There's no plan expansion without a leaching field. There's no leaching field without a plan expansion, right? You added the two tanks, but they gotta go somewhere.
And
Right.
Yeah.
So common sense for the lay person who's not really paying attention in that first town meeting with the plan expansion, when you said it's gonna be no cost to the users. And then maybe when we got to the second meeting, it just went over their head. I don't know. But I think they're the same. I don't think that they're different. You can't have one without the other. And it's a bunch of muddied water at this point.
See,
No pun intended. But here's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So here's where I'm at with this.
Okay.
So I think it should be paid by the users, just as I feel, and I've stated here when we had the conversation with the transfer station. I think it should be 100% paid by the users. If I come down to the sewer department tomorrow with my annual bill to clean out my septic, are you gonna give me 2/3? No, you're gonna tell me to go pound sand, right? So I get for why the town gave you the 1/3 upfront way back when to kick this thing off, but now we went into an expansion and it got split up between town meetings and the waters got muddied. But in the end, as far as I'm concerned, it's on the users to try to help in the middle. And I don't know what can, and it'd be another thing for council is, I know these costs are high on the users. Can the town somehow lend the money to the fund in order to give some relief to the taxpayers? But you got to pay it back eventually.
Well, that's the whole thing.
When, let's say, in 5 years, the water's running and we get a boom in business and your receipts go up, then you pay it back. Right? But you keep rates low for now. And then again, how do you do that if you can make a deal like that? You're gonna have to do that every year.
Well,
same thing.
That's what council's saying, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only out of the box thinking I was thinking on this was somehow a mechanism to borrow to keep things low. And ultimately, I do believe it's on the town's back. I think everything around here is on the town's back. The town is the backstop, right? I got my own issues with my roads in the town. It's on the town, in my opinion. They're the backstop. They greenlighted the project, right? So I do think there's some responsibility here. And that's where I'm saying, can we somehow do a mechanism to loan it and eventually you got to pay it back? I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. But in the end, enterprise fund, user fees, this is your baby. You got to figure it out.
We just thought that the town, has committed in the past to paying the 1/3, 2/3 philosophy. And that was all raised when Brian got on board. So, I mean, it's.
I would just add to what David said here. I see the plant expansion and the leaching fields as a bit different. That if we the town agreed to pay 1/3 of the original infrastructure. Well, we know that leaching fields have to be replaced every so often. If you have your own system at home, every few years or every 20 years, whatever it might be, you've got to put in a new leaching field. So I look at this leaching field as just added cost to the original infrastructure. And I think it's reasonable to say, hey, if the town's paying for 1/3 of the original, this leaching field is just a continuation of that. Now, when it comes to the project to expand, I find that being different, that's totally taking a different situation, to a different approach to it. So that, I think that's, where I differ somewhat from, what you're
Yeah.
saying. But besides that, I don't think I have much else to add or contribute. Mike, do you have any comments or thoughts?
I need a little bit of help with the timeline for this. When exactly did we move forward with the leaching field article at town meeting? The town meeting,
It
it was
was,
fairly recently,
yeah, I
right?
think it was
They're
23.
two separate, they're very separate.
Well,
The plant
20
expansion
Yeah,
was
it was fall.
2018,
Yeah.
and the leaching field was 2023, failed,
Yeah.
and 2024 passed.
So phase one, I'm sorry to interrupt, is the original two tanks,
Yes,
Original two tanks was 1999.
1990. And that's always been subsidized by the town to the tune of 1/3.
Right.
Correct?
Hold on. Original two tanks,
I'm just trying to nail that down.
Okay,
That's
but-
phase one.
but hold on, original two tanks, phase one, those are the tanks. The leaching field for those tanks, there was a leaching field. It's under the country club. Right?
Mhm.
So
That's
so
the
that,
date,
that's phase one.
Well,
No, not
right.
David.
not
Right,
Davis
right.
yet.
Yeah.
That was not paid for by anybody in the town. The leaching field that was put in was paid for by Indian Pond Estates
Right.
as part of an agreement, had nothing to do with the town. Town did not pay for that at all. In fact, they didn't put any of the sewers in Indian Pond Estates. That was paid for by the developer. And the agreement was he was gonna use our water, irrigate his golf course, which he reneged on the last minute of the last day.
Right.
But wait a minute, this is important. So no one has paid for that in the town, for the field that we need.
That was serviced by the original two tanks in
Correct.
phase one.
Correct.
Thank you. So we
So
don't
there,
have any skin in the game for the leach field there, just the two tanks, correct?
And that
Yeah.
was temporary. We always had to put this field we built anyways.
On the
That's in-
Davis property.
On the, that's in that document that.
That's phase two.
but just so you have a
No, that
full,
was for phase 1 and 2. That field that we put was for the entire system. The entire thing was always meant to be.
So the Davis property leaching field was always intended to be the field that was going to service the original two tanks.
And the next two things,
And the next two tanks in
we had planned it,
So
back
sort of consistent with Carl's theory here.
Yes.
It's all part of
Right.
one big package.
yes,
That you, looking at, same your theory too, but viewing it from two entirely.
yeah, I just wanted to
different
make sure you
financial-
realized these new leaching fields,
The Davis.
the Davis property is not where they've historically been this whole time.
No, they've been,
They've been
like
underneath
under
the
the
country
country
club.
club. But he's saying that we always needed those additional leaching fields,
absolutely,
even to service the first two tanks.
yes.
That we agreed to pay a
Well,
third of.
Well, the leaching fields don't last forever, right? You always had to have a contingency, and isn't there fields underneath,
the transfer station.
under the
has-
transfer station?
Yeah, that was.
But they're tiny.
That,
They
that,
were like emergency backups
right.
if we didn't get this other field passed.
Yeah.
That's when I got dragged in here to try to help move this thing along.
That under the transfer station can support one tank.
Yeah.
That's it. Not two, not even the original two tanks, one tank.
So the original had two tanks, and we got 3 leaching fields under the country club.
Plus it needed the Davis tanks, is what you're telling me.
They
Yes,
didn't-
Absolutely.
Well, again, he's saying they did, and you're saying they didn't.
They didn't need the Davis until they expanded.
No.
Again,
She
that's
said
where I'm-
leaching fields have a.
And you
have a
rest, you
time
gotta
frame.
rest those.
How do you arrest them if there's nothing else to put them in?
No, I got you.
No, so
We're on
that's
the same page.
why you had to have the capacity for all the tanks in one place, which is what we just finished building.
Whether we did the 4 tanks or not, we would have still, we were pursuing the Davis property well
From the
before that.
beginning, yes, I understand.
So that, the Davis property still would have been built, whether we had planned expansion to 4 tanks or not. Because bond counsel will only give us a 20-year debt because that's what they think the lifespan of leaching fields are. And we're up to almost 25 years now.
Yeah, I got you.
So with or without the planned expansion, we would need to have done this
Gotcha.
project.
So they're trying to tie the new leaching fields into the 20 years ago and say this is one big plan.
I don't think they're
Expansion or
trying-
no
it
expansion.
doesn't sound like they're trying to, in hindsight, it's like they are saying that it was always a part of the
The plan.
plan.
No, it was.
Okay.
It's
so-
in writing.
All right, so it was always part of the plan. I guess the part that nobody
But here's my thing.
discussed then was,
Here's my
will the
thing.
town continue to pay a third?
For the last 20 years, the users should have been paying money. They should have been accruing that money, holding that money, reserving that money to eventually purchase the Davis property and fulfill their plan.
That doesn't work at all, logically or any other way. The way this is a unique project. Very few towns start with the new treatment plan and new infrastructure at the beginning. So our job as a community was to look at the entire thing and project as best we could 25 years in the future, which we did pretty good, actually. And we did all this planning and it's documented. And we came up with a plan and we came up with a budget for betterments at the time, which should have been adjusted further as going on. To your point, it might have been good to do that. But there was a loss of some continuity of knowledge about this. And if you go back to 2004, 5, 6, people were fighting to get into the last bit of tank capacity. And then we ran out of it and we had to stop. So, so you had a 5, 6 year, nothing was happening. And then the sewer commission properly went in and realized we got to get going here again. But to your point, this was a plan from the beginning. It was always meant to be done this way. The town never had an opportunity to inspect that leaching field. Engineers couldn't look at it. It was taken away from us. It was not a very nice thing to do, but that's what happened. So it was always meant to be temporary. The fields that are up there now are designed for a long time because they're over designed. It's actually a 1 million gallon a day leaching field. So this guy who runs the place and has to do all that heavy lifting can balance and give certain cells. There's 6 cells up there, so you can rest cells within the field. So you don't have to be worried about, we are going to build another field tomorrow because he knows how to do this. So that's the difference. There's a huge difference in terms of operational integrity, how you do the plan, how it was designed, how it was planned, looking again, 25 years in advance. And it took the sewer commission in the town 20 years fighting with a lot of different people to get to this point. We had 9 suits, I think, when I counted up. And we've had 4 on this since we started to build it last year. And we've prevailed every time. So it hasn't been easy. And we reluctantly have gone back to this situation because we can't grow either. We have a moratorium.
Yeah.
We're addressing that too. But I think what we're saying is we need your help here, at least for the first year. And progressing further. And I think our promise can be, we're going to work on we're open for business now. The leaching field's done. We're open for business. We need the revenue.
All right, but hold on. Now you're saying something different to me. Now you're talking my language and we can put it on record. But here's what I'm saying. You're asking for 137 for the next 20 years. Obviously, we only can do it 1 year at a time, right? But now are you going with Dave's theory that once the new users come on, you're gonna step back off the 1/3?
See, the dilemma with that is, we need to assign a special assessment to the sewer customers.
Mhm.
We need to know what they're gonna pay each year for 20 years.
The betterment, is that what you're
Essentially a
talking about?
betterment, yeah.
The hookup,
Is that
It's-
a rate or an amount?
It's based on, we call them equivalent residential units. Like a single family home will pay one price, the mall will pay that much
Yeah.
more. So we need to set that for the next real estate tax bills.
Right.
And is that like a fairly significant, I don't remember, like a big sum, like $20,000?
Well-
Then gets paid by the user over
Right,
20
The
years.
front page of this
Oh, I'm
has the
sorry.
breakdown.
The
It-
second set of bullet points.
Yes, it would cost the sewer customers without any assistance, $188 a year. With assistance, 5,000 parcels in town would pay $28 a year for 20 years, for $551 over 20 years.
That's just the betterment.
It's called, this round is called a special assessment. You can only
That's just
charge
to
a
get a
betterment.
hookup. And then there's a user fee on top of that.
No, this is just for
No,
the
this is
capital cost.
This
Yeah,
is
for the
just
cost.
for the
This is marginal.
$137,000.
Yeah.
That's $28.
So
That's
that's,
all it is.
Nothing.
And then one other concern that I have, if we do go forward, and even like I'm saying, like you get your users, we back off this. I'm afraid it's gonna get lost in the wash here again. We're gonna approve it the first year, and then when year two comes up, they're gonna say, well,
You did last
you
year.
did it last year. So to me, it's like, once you open that Pandora's box, it's hard to put it back.
I mean, we're willing to work on language that as our revenue increases, that we can work out some language that the town's debt could be decreased as that happens, just like,
Yeah.
I mean, we can work on language like that. I mean,
Carl's getting antsy.
Okay, yes, I was gonna say, I've allowed 30 minutes, almost 30 minutes for the discussion. Mike, if you have any quick, one more?
Yeah, I guess this is what I was trying to get at when I started that most recent round of opening cans of worms here. What was presented, again, as David said, that kind of running together, how was it presented to us in the art, like, what was the mechanism for paying for this when we approved the project?
I like you, I have to go back and watch it, to be honest with you. I know there was a sewer customer who got up and said, will our rates increase? I said, more than likely. So I honestly have to go back and watch it myself.
The leaching field was separated and it was put in such a way that the users and the town would be paying something potentially. It was never as, and different from the two tanks, which were not set
Yeah.
that way. Okay, so that's why this is.
Yeah.
We're crossing it the way we are.
Marcia, I kind of share your sense about it being relatively small. The only problem is my experience on this committee suggests we had a way of making a lot of nothings add up to something pretty quick.
Big.
Deb, do you have
Get 'em
any
going.
questions
No,
or
everyone
comments?
pretty much
Okay.
said what I needed to
And
say.
Martha,
I'm done.
Marcia's done. All right, we're going to vote this tonight. We're voting all warrant articles tonight, okay? That we're getting close to the time where it has to be done. I would suggest that if anybody feels that they don't have enough information to make the decision they want to make, they're more than welcome to abstain. But I'm going to take a vote that will be probably our final vote. Keith, you had a question?
Just a quick comment. I don't, again, I'm not trying to nitpick. The article that was approved at the fall town meeting, never, they said that the town would have to pay a portion of the debt if the town reserved a portion of the capacity that was available. It didn't mention the town paying a percentage of the debt consistent with what they had done 20 years ago. They had said that the article said that we would pay our share of the debt based on a percentage of capacity that we reserve. So I think I'm trying to answer David's question. What did the article say? The article did not say anything about the town sharing the cost of funding the leaching field outside of.
And I don't disagree with that.
I'm not.
And
trying to be argumentative.
that's why we're bringing it to the body.
No, I agree. I just think it was, didn't say the town's.
Yeah.
All right, can I have a motion on this article?
For discussion purposes, I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 6.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carl, I.
Marcia, I.
I'm just curious, did the Board of Selectmen all vote favorably?
They haven't voted most of the warrant
And-
articles.
And what about the sewer commission?
I assume they seem pretty in favor.
Okay, all right, I vote aye.
I abstain.
David, no.
So we recommend approval of this article 311. Thank you, sewer
Thank
commissioners.
you for your time.
I appreciate you guys, I do. I do.
The next thing
We'll
that,
go around again. Oh,
I'm sorry to interrupt her.
there are two.
Article
Is it Article
7,
7?
Article 7.
yeah, okay. We're going to revote the wastewater budget because there have been some adjustments in the debt service. These are adjustments that the treasurer and the director of finance working together have come up with the amounts that they've agreed upon. The principal was increased $241,000. The interest was increased $11,000. I'm just rounding. And the debt expense was decreased by $8,000 for a net increase of $244,000. I don't have any questions. Does anybody want any more detail on this? I've looked at these schedules from both the treasurer and the director of finance, and I'm convinced that we are now in line with the proper numbers. If you remember, when we voted these numbers, I made the point that we had not seen the actual debt schedules coming from the treasurer's office. We're just,
This is supposed to be raised and appropriate?
I,
I mean, is that the standard language
Yeah,
for
that's
the
right.
enterprise funds?
yes.
All right, I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 7 as printed in the draft warrant.
I second it.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, aye.
Michael, I.
David, I.
I'm not doing any more changes. I have been looking at warrant
I'm not trying to
changes.
make a change. I'm just saying, you've got a supplemental appropriation for sewer if you want to make it. While you're here.
Thank you. Okay, so we
500.
approve the new wastewater budget by 500. Article 2, supplemental FY 25 wastewater enterprise fund budget. The wastewater fund is needing an additional funding for this current fiscal year of $300,000. This article transfers the funds from their retained earnings account into operations so that they can balance their budget for FY 25.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 2 as printed in the draft warrant.
I second.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, aye.
Michael, I.
David, I.
We recommend approval of Article 2, 500.
Thanks, Mark. Good night.
Thank you,
See
guys.
you both soon.
And as long as we're looking at these warrant articles, before we go to, we have to revise the, revote the water budget for the same type of issue. That what we handed out, I think we handed out a new water one.
Yeah.
Revised 14.
Article 5.
The the water department budget here has a couple of changes. The debt service has changed by $40,000. The principal was reduced by 77,000. The interest was increased by 38,000. And the debt expense was decreased by 1 for the net of 40K. Above and beyond that, they've added in, I'm not sure we really need to worry about it, but they've added in $70,000 for a new vehicle. If you see the warrant article itself has the $70,000 as a separate line item. So that I don't, I guess we can vote the total, including the 70,000. I've never seen us put any kind of a capital into the budget like this, but the fact that it's in the warrant article that way.
Is it in the capital budget?
Yes,
No, isn't that redundant?
it's not in the capital.
Well,
It's in the
see,
capital plan,
It's in the capital plan.
not in the fund.
But see, this goes back,
Hard to figure.
this goes back to the problem. It's an enterprise fund, right?
Okay,
It's an enterprise fund. We have little to no control. Till they're short and they need 134K. Then we got to backstop them, right? Which that's what makes this ridiculous to me.
Any questions about approving this? Or
Because the user is going to pay for it, except the 1/3.
is that, I don't like the notion that we're. This $70,000.
No, I know.
No, I think it's using it as an
They're just
example.
both enterprise.
Right.
Right.
Which is solely. That totally lacks any transparency for any taxpayer to know about, but.
Right.
Like a revolving fund. All right.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 5.
Second it.
all in favor, Carl, I.
I guess I'm gonna abstain.
Aye.
Michael, I.
Dave, I.
Do we
Who
actually
was-
need to be taking roll calls? We don't really online.
Yeah, that's true. 401, we approved this.
Could save
Is there a
us.
rule once you start, can't stop? So like it's
Kingston
Snickers.
FinCom presented by Pringle.
Pringles, what is it?
Okay, so that takes care of what we had to do for water and wastewater. Now we're going to have Pete Emberg here, the chairman of the the chairman of the finance committee, about the finance.
See, I got one thrown on.
The chairman of the capital planning committee is gonna give a brief update.
And I'll
on-
keep it as brief as possible and sensitive to the amount of work you have to do.
Oh, it looks like Derek's online.
Well, so there you go, you have to roll call.
Why did I say anything?
You, I don't care about.
And
Baby. Okay,
so what article are we talking about here?
17.
Is it still 17? We've changed.
I couldn't tell you.
Article 15 now.
Article 15 with,
Oh, good.
15
You
now?
were-
yeah,
I know, I was looking at your memo, then looking here and all your matching.
the latest and greatest, it's the capital equipment project funding, Article 15. The floor is yours.
All right. So this year, all the capital that we're proposing for annual town meeting are replacements, repairs, and important safety improvements to existing capital assets. Approximately $3 million worth of requests this year will either be funded by grants or not at all. The KES roof, both in grant and debt funding, is being done to the tune of $4 million. If that passes. There's over $2.2 million worth of requests that are not being funded this year. Some of those probably will find alternate funding for. Some of them might drop off the capital plan, but most of them will have to be dealt with at some point in the future year. And that list just keeps growing. We are not proposing any new leases for annual town meeting, so we can skip over that. The first motion of the article, I'll run through the projects and the costs, give a brief description, answer any questions we have them.
God bless you.
Project one, $25,000 to repair or replace folding wall panels at the COA. The panels there are getting stuck. They're scratching the flooring, damaging the floors. They're kind of like, I don't know if it's the right word, but kind of like cubicle wall panels. The fabric on the outside is tearing and sagging. The maximum cost to repair it is $25,000. It may not even be close to that, but the contractor said we won't know until we begin the work if they can find the parts that they'll need or not.
Let's, since we're gonna vote these individually, let's vote each one as Heath explains it. So does anybody have a question on the 25,000?
Move the finance committee recommend approval for project one within the first motion of Article 15.
A second,
All in favor? Carl, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David,
Eric,
Is
aye.
it possible we could get, sorry, Derek, we can
You're fine.
like get to the end and then like take a batch motion and just pull anything out that people want to talk about?
If you'd like to do it that way, sure.
I'll be creative.
All right, I'll try to go quickly. Project two, $52,408 to replace computer file servers in several buildings for the town. The servers are at an age and a point in their warranty where they're no longer serviceable. $50,000 for various traffic safety improvements around town. We've done this before. This is engineering, to support road and drainage improvements, et cetera. Excuse me, $233,537 to replace 3 patrol vehicles for the police department. The police department wanted 4 vehicles, but we only had motions for 3. Project 5, $167,362 to replace 28 police tasers. The tasers are, actually, they went up by 28,000 from when they were presented to us. And, when we voted on them, they are an important tool for police officers. They only last about five years and they have to be turned in. 167,000. Oh, sorry, I did that one. Project 6, $82,211 to replace the vehicle lift at the highway barn. The existing lift will not pass inspection next year, so it has at most a year's worth of service left. They're looking to replace the current stationary lift with a movable lift. They'll even be able to move it outside, lift a truck and do any spraying or anything they have to do, so they won't have to do it in the highway barn. That's critical to their operations. Project 7, $50,000 to repair or replace the KES C-wing drain lines. Excuse me, those are basically sewer lines. And what's happening is that the pipe is doing some kind of a zigzag in the floor. It's got a lot of elbows in it turning, and it's causing basically sewer backups every 1 to 2 years. They need to get in there, jackhammer it up, straighten it up. 50,000 is what they estimate the maximum cost to be. It could be less than that. And project 8, $50,000 to repair the KIS parking lot, driveway, sidewalks, and other asphalt surfaces. This is part of the school's building envelope study. An architectural firm went through, looked at the exterior of the buildings and grounds and prioritized all their projects. Also important.
Okay, Mike, you want to,
Yeah, after one very quick question, project 2.
Yep.
Can you reread the amount that you have?
The amount I have is $51,408.
Perfect. I move the finance committee.
you can move everything except as far as I'm concerned, you can move everything except the number 3, the 50,000 for engineering.
Anybody want me to pull anything out of the kind of consent motion, for lack of a better phrase?
That's good.
All right, I move the finance committee recommend approval of projects 2 and 4 through 8 inclusive for the first motion of Article 15 and warrant as presented in its current draft form.
I'll second it.
And now I wasn't paying attention, we were excluding,
Yeah, 2 and 4 through 8. Michael, I.
Kyle, I.
Excluding one.
We already did
No,
one.
three.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Dave, I.
Derek, I.
Can I ask a quick question? When you turn in the lasers, do they, the tasers, do they get any, the laser, do they get anything back?
Go right back to the manufacturer. It's quite a deal for the manufacturer.
Oh,
Am I doing the math right? Those are 6K each.
oh, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
But what they, at the start of a shift, they have to test it to make sure it works. They can't deploy a failing taser.
Yeah, that'd be.
I've actually seen body cam or dash cam footage where somebody attempted, a police officer attempted to use that. And the person he was trying to subdued him, and his partner had to use a firearm and it went to court. So we think we'd like to have working tasers and not have liabilities and
Yeah.
everything else that goes with it.
6,000 or 6 million. Yeah, I see where that's from. Okay.
Okay, so we recommend approval of articles of items 1 through 8 excluding 3, 6, 0, 0. The number 3, the $50,000 engineering for various traffic safety improvements. I'm gonna vote against that because number 1, I don't like general funding like that without specifics. And number 2, I believe that we're already spending a ton of money and I'm looking for any place I can to vote against some capital items. So with that, unless somebody else wants to make a comment.
What is it? Just a general engineering line item? or is
Ideally,
there
it would be
something-
part of their operating budget at this point, I think. But what's happening is that at the time we brought this on, we were bringing in $500,000 for road improvements. Between that and let's just say chapter 90 funds, whatever they're using on their operating basis. If they're gonna solve a problem with the roadways, they need to have money to perform engineering. Engineering is very important, that kind of work. If they have to move a curb, if they have to fix something with a catch basin for drainage, whatever it is they have to do, they may be required or just need to have engineering services. It's a capital improvement. But we've been supplying that because we wanted to do the $500,000 for the works, but we've not been able to find a way to fund the $500,000 per year, which Mr. Pike supported the first year we did. Right here in this room.
He's gotten smarter since then.
Trying to find some money.
I'll move that the finance committee recommend approval of item number 3, $50,000 capital engineering for various traffic safety improvements.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
So he was already a no.
Oh, I.
David, no.
Michael, no.
Dave, yes.
Kyle, no.
Derek, no.
Derek, no. So we have 2 in favor and 4 opposed. Is that correct?
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can move on to the grant applications.
So the second motion, we separated these out. These are funding for grants. Grants will provide some construction services for some road improvement projects, which I'll describe. However, in order to get the grant, you have to provide the engineering costs. That's the way the state works. And, we had a big thing at the last town meeting about the MBTA zoning so we could keep getting grants. And these are, I believe, these are in the top 5 of road improvement projects that the planning department wants to do. I had these put on a separate motion because up to now, we do not know if we will be awarded these grants. We will not pursue them at town meeting if we're not awarded the grants. Project number 9, $151,000 for engineering for the Green Street crosswalk realignment. Basically what they're trying to do is improve pedestrian and bicycle safety along Green Street at the library. And they've spent about, between these projects, $75,000 of planning department money to do an assessment around town. They've taken the complaints that come into the selectman's office about road safety, This is a crosswalk I used to use quite a bit with my children. It does need improving. Certainly, it's important, the safety. We don't know if we're gonna get this grant. We don't know if we're gonna get one, all three, or none. So, the intention here is to apply until we get these. Project 10, $160,000 for the Pembroke Street at Grove Street bicycle and pedestrian improvements. These grants include contingencies. This is for the crossing sidewalk. I think they want to turn where Grove turns onto Pembroke a little bit for sort of a safer alignment based on the drawings that we've seen thus far. Project 11, $49,550 for the Main Street pedestrian safety and traffic calming from Pembroke Street to Summer Street. This one is a top priority. The planner is looking at this stretch of 3A as the gateway to the town. This quarter 3A is falling apart. It's impacting property reinvestment and new development. They're looking to get complete streets money potentially, transportation improvement program money. This will not be a quick project. It'll probably occur in, with design and traffic studies, whatever else we're doing, 10 to 15 years. And in a separate conversation I had with the town planner, we've got a lot of vacancies, dilapidation through there. The water shortage is an issue, but this is to help us be more competitive as a town in terms of attracting development.
Do you have the amounts that the grants that we're seeking for each one of these three?
This one, we're seeking $3.8 million worth of funding.
Okay, how about the other two?
And there will be additional engineering there, but that'll come up later. Project 10 funding is 120,000. Project 9 is 101,000.
So for project 9, we're gonna get a grant of 101 and spend 151 of our own money, correct? So project. Huh?
Because that's what we're being told, the engineering. There'll be design, if they have to do a traffic study, whatever it is they're doing, measuring where to move the curbs.
And for the next one, we're gonna provide 160, so we can get a grant of 120. Where I come from, we're doing a lot of investing for getting a very little return.
The only thing is, we're not spending this money if we don't get the grant.
I hear you. And the other comment I would make is we got a grant to do the intersection up by Cumberland Farms. And we spent, the grant was, I believe, around $500,000. And we managed to overrun that as a town, so we had to have more town financing. Now, I drive through there at least once a day. But my fellow members here, you drive through there quite often. Do you see any great improvements in that intersection?
I mentioned that dollar figure to my wife, as it happens, the last time we drove through there a couple days ago, and she had a fairly similar set of questions to what you just asked.
I'm just putting that out on the table. I don't need any more help on that one.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
10? Because I drive through there multiple times a day, because that's where I live.
Me too.
So that road, for those of you who may not drive there, that's the road that runs right in front of and then to the side of Witt's Market and over Napoli Pizza. It has a very odd, lack of a better term, tail to it. It runs
It's awkward.
pretty straight. It is a very strange turn. Is the idea to essentially remove that and
So
sort
they
of try
have like
to
a-
angle?
They have like a satellite image where they're realigning that curve right there. up
I'm
front.
here if that's helpful.
Oh, there's Val.
You can explain it better than I can.
Go ahead, Val.
Okay, thank you. I'm just jumping in and I understand you're talking about the Grove Street intersection.
Yep.
Yeah, the goal there is to add a improved crosswalk. It's relatively wide, it's an upward turn, as you were describing. And it would include narrowing up that intersection so that Grove Street has a narrower approach to the road, and then a safe crosswalk with appropriate signal timing on the crosswalk itself, so that it would be activated by the pedestrian, allowing them to get over to the corner store without having to drive.
Okay, so again, the idea is to try and sort of create like an angle as opposed to that kind of weird curl that runs into Pembroke Street?
Yeah, it would lessen up, it would make it more of a T intersection and get rid of that wideness that's there as those two come together. And Sean Turner is okay with that as well.
Okay, I guess my other question is the pedestrian bit. Do we have any estimate for what kind of pedestrian traffic actually comes through there? Because again, I'm there half a dozen times a day on a normal day. It's not exactly overrun by people on foot.
Understood. It's the goal here is to improve connectivity, improve the walkability in the town, reduce traffic trips, and it's free money. If we can do the engineering, it will be paid for by the state.
I don't want to continue to belabor this. I'm not sure of how many people it's really practical to walk there from. There's not a lot of places you can't make it very far either way. But anyway, I can shut up about this for right now.
Val, I have a question. I don't know if you were on when I was addressing it. The 151,000 for Green Street, 160,000 for Pembroke Street that we're being asked to fund. What is the amount of return that we can get? You know, to me, if I'm only gonna get $100,000 from the state the feds on these two projects, we're investing a lot. But if the potential is that I could get $500,000, it's different.
Well, the cost of this particular project at Green Street is, like you said, it's almost the same as the engineering. However, what Sean Turner is doing is looking at, because that's such a focal point for the community, and we would be improving the walkability of the sidewalks on the library side, he is looking at allocating all of the Chapter 90 money to do the sidewalks on the other side, so that this would greatly improve the experience of the town in terms of the candlelight night walk at Christmas time, and the ability of our residents to get around that area. The sidewalks are not in very good condition. So if we're going to make improvements to one side, we're going to make improvements to the other side. Without that investment, we're not going to be making that priority. We're going to put that Chapter 90 money towards other repairs.
Okay, I understand your position on these. I think it's a really nice thing to be trying to do. But at the same time, I keep hearing people complain about their roads needing to be resurfaced, and
Yes.
we're not spending enough money on streets and roads infrastructure.
Yes. $100,000 will get you very little in terms of paving or infrastructure improvements. If we're able to leverage a little bit of money here to get a crosswalk put in and get some improvements done, we're going to start making a difference in the community. The Chapter 90 money is being distributed through a system that we spent $100,000 doing the measuring of all the pavement throughout the entire town. And we've prioritized the pavement based on that. We literally photographed and analyzed every inch of pavement in the town. And we're allocating the Chapter 90 money over that mathematical system to the most important parts of the town. You saw no improvements last summer because we had a change happening in our DPW. We have every intention, we've already put out to bid several jobs to spend that Chapter 90 money to make improvements. This is a separate aspect of capital planning that we need to look at in terms of the sidewalks and the infrastructure that we have to support our pedestrians.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Any other questions from the Finance Committee members concerning these three items?
when I, in a moment, make the motion, I think I'm gonna do these three separately.
Thank you.
All right. I move the finance committee recommend favorable action, project 9 from the second motion within Article 15 of the draft warrant.
Second it.
All in favor? All opposed? Carl opposed? All in favor, again?
Sorry, Derek, I.
So we're going clockwise.
Oh, Marcia opposed. No,
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 no.
Michael, I.
Dave, I.
Derek, I.
Derek, aye.
Derek,
So
I,
we have-
sorry.
We have 3 opposed and 3 in favor of it.
I move the finance committee recommend favorable action on project 10 within the second motion of Article 15 of the draft warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Anybody in favor, speak up.
Dave,
please.
aye.
Thank you.
Derek, I.
Marcia, no.
Okay, I haven't
All right.
made that motion. We have two in favor. Those any opposed? Kyle opposed?
Marcia opposed.
Debbie opposed.
Michael abstain.
So we have 2 in favor, 3 opposed, and 1 abstain.
Move the finance committee recommend favorable action on project 11 within the second motion of Article 15 of the draft warrant.
Second it.
All in favor? Kyle, aye.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
Dave, I.
Derek, I.
We recommend approval of the 49,556.00.
Yeah, here's a question. If one of these, let's just say, okay, you voted for the project 11. If that doesn't come through this year, would you switch your vote on town meeting floor to one of the others? We don't know if we're getting all of these or none. We could be getting 1, it could be getting 2. In the form of an award from the state.
I don't think.
Will we know
So
before
so we
town
voted
meeting?
for these, knowing that if we had 1, we would only be moving 1 at town meeting. And the cash that was going towards the engineering for the others was to be returned to free cash.
I would discuss it with my finance committee in town meeting if they wanted to revote the items.
Sure. Okay.
And would we know by town meeting?
If
whether-
we don't, I'm not gonna move it.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes
May I, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
If I had to recommend one over the other, I would recommend the Green Street.
Number 9.
Number- The library one?
Yes.
That was 3-0.
3-3.
I would, oh, yeah, 3-3. Can I change my, vote to positive?
Doesn't matter.
All right,
It's
here,
still
I'll move
positive.
I'll move reconsideration. I was in the minority anyway. I move reconsideration of the finance committee vote on project 9 within the second motion on Article 15.
Okay, can we have a little?
I'll second it.
Second this and let's vote it so that we can discuss it.
Okay, we just that. Okay, second.
I second it. I changed my vote.
all in favor of reconsideration.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Kyle, no.
Marcia,
Debbie, I.
I'm sorry, I had something screaming in my ear. What are we voting on?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's just for discussion purposes.
Okay, Derek, I.
Perfect. Marcia, your question.
okay, we won't know at town meeting whether we get number 11.
We may.
9, 10, or 11.
We won't know any of them.
We may know.
Oh, sorry, we may know, but it's possible. I mean, I think we were supposed to know in March, and we didn't find out yet.
So if we don't know any of them, are you gonna move?
We're not gonna move any costs for engineering for project we might not even see.
Okay,
That's why it's not a separate motion. I mean, if we get none of these, I'm just not gonna make the motion. If we're gonna move 1, I'll just subtract the other 2, and that way all the other capitals handled under a separate motion. It's much cleaner up at town meeting floor.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I, the Main Street one is not a grant.
Oh,
right.
oh, it
And
says,
it
I thought it
says
was
that in
3.8
law.
million.
It says project line intended to support the grant application,
No, next page.
project 11. That's the 49,550.
It does say grant application
And it's a 3.8
for
million.
engineering services.
That's why I voted for it.
I was under the impression we were talking about a grant.
For project 11.
No, this
There
is,
was a 3.8 million.
It puts us in a
Multiple
position, if I may, the
Yes,
49,000-ish number for Main Street puts us in a position to apply for grants for the rest of the engineering design after we do that outreach work. Without it, we can't be preparing ourselves to apply for grant money.
okay, so it's on the table that you wanna revote, Article 9, correct?
Project 9 of Article 15. I think.
Go ahead and make a motion.
I'm so confused.
I thought we
Right.
voted. on
Here,
that.
I'm doing this for discussion purposes only. I move the Finance Committee recommend approval of Project 9 within the second motion of Article 15.
We've already gone through and approved that, so go ahead and discuss it. If that's what you wanna do.
I'm good.
Okay, so,
You good?
so we wanna,
I-
you just voted, we just voted to reconsider this particular item.
Which is
Yeah.
a 3-3 vote.
number
That's
9.
So it
correct.
failed.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, and now are we ready to vote this one again?
Fine.
Okay, we've reconsidered it.
Yep.
Now, so you need to make a
That's what I just did.
I didn't know.
All right.
Oh.
I move the Finance Committee recommend approval of Project 9 within Article 15.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Sorry,
Aye.
I'm in favor, sorry.
All opposed, so we have 3 in favor.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Marcia, aye.
I'm gonna vote in favor.
Okay, so we've
4-2.
You
changed
changed it.
our vote to 4-2 in favor.
Sorry.
It's okay.
These things happen. What reconsideration is for.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to what I would consider the non-controversial, the easy lease payments. Because again, I don't understand why we have to vote these, that is the town going to walk away from their lease commitments?
They'll send a repo to pick up that tower ladder. We don't.
Exactly,
Do you wanna
exactly.
talk through these, or do you mind if I just make a motion to approve them?
Just.
I'll answer questions if there are any, but these are, as far as I'm concerned, they're commitments. This is a required formality. And with Carl on that.
I move the Finance Committee recommend approval of projects 12 through 19 inclusive within the third and final motion of Article 15.
I second it.
All in favor, Carl, aye.
Marcia, aye.
Debbie, aye.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Eric, I.
We recommend approval of all of these lease payments, 6-0. Heath, before you go, we are spending $2,080,000 on capital expenditures.
Mhm.
Last year, I believe we probably did close to the same amount.
More so.
More, okay. In your experience, you've been on the committee for a few years now. Do you believe that $2 million a year is sustainable for capital expenditures in the town of Kingston?
Sustainability depends on what funds you can raise that are appropriate to use for capital. Right now, we use the meals tax and free cash. I don't think we're adequately addressing all of our capital needs. Because if we have $2 million plus in requests that we're not even discussing because there's just no money to even fund them, we're gonna have to look at another year where we have 1.5 to 2 million in leases and new requests, plus capital from prior years that didn't get addressed. So I understand the problem. It's dependent upon, all right, the meals tax is going up a little bit. Free cash is a little volatile. I don't like using all these leases. I think it's like, as I said before, if they have their application is many things that we have no other means by which to finance these with. But we are handling largely urgent projects. Below urgent, your priority level could be important projects. You know, you've got a parking lot somewhere, it's degrading, it needs to be resurfaced. It's gonna be terribly more expensive to not do, to delay the resurfacing and have to jackhammer it up and cart it off and lay out a new one. And then somewhere well below that, you have wish list items, which we're not even considering. Which is fine, CPC can do that, grants can do that, but we're not addressing all of our needs. So the question is, you know, if you're saying, can we sustain that? It just depends on what funds are available in the year.
Okay, well, let me take a crack at that then. My experience on the finance committee, my experience in, you know, dealing with town finances here for 12 years or so. I believe that we have almost a guaranteed $500,000 funding source in the meals tax, okay? I believe that on an ongoing basis, the free cash can provide order of magnitude of another $500,000. So I believe, and I said this 3 or 4 years ago, the town was spending $500,000 a year on capital. It was all coming from the meals tax and free cash. We would allocate 100, 200, maybe 300,000 from free cash each year. And we have 300,000 at that time coming from the meals tax. Now we've suddenly decided that we need to spend $2 million a year on capital. I maintain it is not sustainable and that we need to start recognizing, hey, we just can't continue to do this. As we tighten up our so-called operating budgets, I don't believe we're gonna see free cash coming out at $2 to $3 million every year. So let's say the total free cash comes out at $1 million to $1.5 million, which is probably more reasonable. Unless the town decides to dedicate another revenue source to capital, I think we're going down a path of real problems concerning capital. That, you know, if we come up with, I don't know, I don't even know what the say the marijuana income is, or the sun thing, the solar energy. You know, I think that, you know, the Board of Selectmen, the town administration needs to one of these years consider dedicating another solid source of revenue to capital. You see the problem we have in financing the operating budget. So that I guess I just wanted to get out on the table while we're talking capital, that the numbers that we're seeing in the last couple of years, we're very fortunate. We've been able to do it. We've been able to replace a lot of fire engines. We've been able to replace a lot of streets and trees and parks, trucks, vehicles. But if anybody has any ideas on how or if we can continue to fund $2 million a year of capital, I would be more than willing to have them make a presentation to the finance committee, to the selectmen, to everyone else.
Well, that was on my list of things discussed, but I trimmed that to keep the meeting short. But you mentioned the marijuana tax. I believe this, I could be wrong, and if anyone knows better, please correct me. I believe the state used it as a carrot to get towns to invite pot shops to the town. And I think did they not reduce or partly eliminate some of that? So it's not, even if you had that in the short term, it's not sustainable in the long term. I've inquired about the ambulance revenues. They made a jump from 1 million to 1.5 or 6 million. And I heard some reasons why maybe that isn't a good idea to use, but you know, something like that where if if there's volatility and maybe you wouldn't want to use it for the operating budget, but you could deal with it if it ebbed and flowed from year to year in capital. I don't know if the state allows us to take if we had a new taxpayer, like we talked about an industrial transfer station. I know the operating budget would need that money more, but if something could be dedicated towards capital or dedicated towards road repair and rebuild.
Another way of doing that type of thing is that you put a line item into your budget of your operating budget of $300,000 a year for capital, or something like that. That's the way you can get the capital revenue from a normal operating type of thing.
I mean, if it's a question of sort of shifting some of these things around, if we adjusted how we approached capital, some of, raise the number of what was considered to be capital in terms of the cost. If you could offset that in the operating budget with repair and replace funds, not just the equipment article, but just something that, like the servers, the tasers are gonna be every 5 years. That's capital. But maybe there's a way to handle that by other means if you can't identify a single capital source. But
Okay,
I think we have to think outside the box because some of these needs aren't going to go away. It's only gonna get worse if we don't address them. If the needs keep growing, like you say, we've seen all the inflationary costs are really big on big capital. I don't know in the future necessarily how we're going to deal with that. Good news is we're going to pay off a lot of leases in the next couple of years.
Maybe.
all right. Thank you, Heath, for the capital.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I think we're ready to dig into the warrant here. And some articles I suspect should be quicker than others. I'm sure you've all done your homework, so you're ready to maybe ask a question or two, but really just vote the article the way it is. I'm gonna try to be juggling two sets of papers here because I had worked on one and now I have another one, so I'm trying to work from my notes. The first one that we need to vote is Article 1. Pretty straightforward, $4,700 for 3 school department invoices from last year. We're gonna fund that via an unexpended article from the 2021 annual town meeting.
I move the finance committee recommend favorable action on Article 1.
Second it.
All in favor, Carl, I.
Marcia, I.
Tippy, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Eric, I.
Article 2. We've already done that one, the supplemental wastewater enterprise fund. Article 3, supplemental general fund budget. The fire department is short approximately $125,000 in the current year FY25 budget. The overtime line has been impacted greatly by several fire personnel being out on injured duty leave. The proposal here is to use $105,455.82 in free cash and take $19,544.18 from unexpended articles. I find this article troubling that we hired 6 new firefighters or 4 new firefighters, whatever the number was a few years ago, to try to get around some of these things. And I guess it's just been an unfortunate year with all of these injuries, so that we're spending another $125,000 in the fire department. That's my only comment. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
I feel like we had a conversation about this last year too, but we don't have any mechanism for unexpended articles below a certain threshold, say under 79 cents.
878.
I said under 79. Right, like we don't have any mechanism by which those can get put back, so we're not keeping track of 3 quarters and 3 pennies somewhere, do we?
No.
Oh,
Just to do this, what we're doing.
I move the finance committee recommend favorable action on Article 3.
I second it.
All in favor, Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I
David, I.
Derek, I.
feel free to make fun of me if I ask that question next year.
So what do we have left in unexpected?
These are ones that, there's the projects to complete. There are
think that's what
our
he's getting at.
balance for
Yeah, so like,
current
I know we're,
project still in being
yeah, completed project.
placed. We went through and pretty much picked everything for completed projects. There's,
The only thing we have left at this point are just projects that are on.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, if we're taking 70%,
Yeah.
Article 4, the general fund operating budget. In effect, we have voted this already. We voted all of the individual departments. We voted the school budgets. But we can vote one more time, the bottom line, the total amount. I'm going to, we'll go over the summary, what I call the budget schedule after we've gone through here, but it does agree with the $60,998,078. You see where it's coming from. It's what we budgeted, what we voted in the budget. The $25,000 increase that we voted for the library is included in these numbers. Hopefully, the Board of Selectmen is going to approve that number on Tuesday night. If they don't, then we'll have to discuss whether we're going to go to town meeting with a difference or if we can come up with a compromise or something.
I will resist the urge to prolong that fight and move the finance committee recommend favorable action on Article 4.
I'll second it.
All in favor, Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
Yeah, we voted to recommend approval of that $61 million budget.
So
Article.
we did 5.
No one's
Article
clapping.
5. Yeah. Article 5, we've done. Article 6, we've done. Article 7, we've done. Article 8, Renewable Energy Enterprise Fund Budget. This one is a standard that we're just in effect authorizing. And Kathleen, tell me if I'm wrong. In effect, what we're doing here, we're authorizing up to $500,000 to come into this account and up to $500,000 to go out. It's really just a clearing account.
yes.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 8.
I second it.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
Article 9, revolving funds, is the same as it was last year. Again, we are authorizing the maximum amount that can flow into these funds. So for instance, recreation can take $700,000 in and they can spend out $700,000. Inspectional services can take in 150, they can spend out 150 on projects. I've said before that I'm never too excited about these accounts, especially when it gets to the 700,000 level and 150,000. Even that, I don't mind. I just think, and there are reporting systems in place so that you can always dig into it, but it just doesn't have the visibility that I like to see from these types of programs.
I have a question. Carl, you said it sets the amount that can be deposited. I thought it just controlled the amount that could be withdrawn.
Expenditure limit.
Right. So the recreation program could have way more than $700,000 in their revolving fund. They just have a limit of 700,000 they can take out. Is that correct?
They can expend for the year.
And How do we know how much they have in, if they're,
Oh, it fluctuates throughout the year.
okay,
And we can certainly provide that. I know I've had conversations with the recreation director about coming over to the board of selectmen meeting and outlining the revolving fund that goes in and out of there. But I would, I don't have an exact, I can certainly provide to the FinCom if you'd like to see it, what the balances are over the last year.
well, the only other big one is the inspectional services, and I'm assuming that that's building permits.
It's plumbing permits, it's electrical permits, it's not building
Okay,
permits. So
so it's just plumbing and electrical,
by a lot.
gas?
Gas as well, thank you. Yes.
Okay.
A little bug, I know. That's all.
And is that about what we collect each year?
It's slowed way down, and it's really slowed down, obviously, with a lack of activity.
Okay.
Any other questions on revolving funds?
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 9.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
Give it on.
Derek, I.
Recommend approval 600. Article 10, this is a new one to establish a police activities revolving fund with a $25,000 limit. The revolving fund will allow the police department to offer a variety of programs, courses to support public safety. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 10.
I second it.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
We recommend approval of that Article 600. Article 11, transfer to employment liability reserve fund. Remember, this is a liability reserve that was established so that when people retire or leave with, we can pay out their sick time or vacation eligibility without having to run it through the operating budget. The idea here is to bring the balance back to $100,000. Is that correct?
No, because the year-end balance right now, and March 31 was 31,569, so they want 131,569.
So we're going to use free cash to put $100,000 in here so that we'll have a balance of $131,569. The town administrator told me that there are a couple of firemen that are considering leaving that would be costly, and someone else can, so.
Would that cover the potential 4 firefighters that they mentioned at the board meeting last night?
So depending on how much time they have left, it's gonna be very close. It will cover them. It's not gonna cover much else. And what we've done in the past is if we have some unanticipated retirements or employees leaving, we will come back at fall town meeting. We'll adjust estimated revenues up a little bit if we need to do that to appropriate some additional money to fund the unanticipated separations.
Is that what, in broad strokes, what categories of town employees are typically offered that feature of their contract?
There's no contract. You by law have to provide the employees with any free vacation time. So I apologize, maybe Kyle remembers the date, but it's been quite a number of years. There are very, very few employees left who would get any sort of sick time payout.
That's one.
But that was eliminated by the town over a decade. And so it's just by law what we have to provide.
Appreciate it. I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 11.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David,
Derek, I.
Recommend approval 600. Article 12, transfer to OPEB, Other Post-Employment Health Insurance Liability Fund. If you remember correctly, we have an obligation to provide medical insurance to retirees. The last time the actuarial study was done, the liability was over $36 million. I seem to remember at one time, the highest liability report I ever had as treasurer, I think it was close to $60 million. So it can vary greatly based upon interest rates and assumptions that go into the actuarial calculation. One thing that we have done a good job in the last few years, we've increased the balance each year so that now we're at $1,120,000 as the reserve that's been provided. The town would have liked to have put another $100,000 into this account, but when we were looking at free cash, trying to figure a way to, minimize what we have to take out of free cash, we agreed that $50,000 would be a reasonable amount to put in here, that the bond rating agencies really take a look at this, and as long as you're contributing something every year, you're probably getting about full credit for doing it. So that it's, again, providing the $50,000 from free cash to increase the reserve. Someday, I suspect the pension liability, the Plymouth County has spent I think we're over 20 years now in trying to fully fund the pension liability, and the town pays a significant amount each year. Another 2 or 3 years, that funding, that pension liability will be fully funded. So hopefully then some of the money that's been going to catch up on pension will come in here to catch up on post-employment benefits.
Do we fund this every year
Yes.
with free cash?
Yes.
And usually it's the $100,000 level, but for current financial.
Yes.
We only had a couple years. When I,
100,000?
yeah, probably only did a couple of years at 100,000. So we started off at 50,000 each year. Then I think we may have done 100, then we went back to 50, kind of used it as a balancing place.
Is there, I assume the goal is eventually to get them to, what is the goal long run?
It's probably going to be the same as the pension. The state stepped in and said, okay, municipalities, it's time to get honest with your pension liabilities, which private industry did the same thing.
Yeah.
They got rid of them.
And so
Right.
that eventually, I think the state will step in and say, hey,
Okay.
you need to provide. And this goes into the Kingston auditor's report every year, has a bunch of numbers concerning OPEB in it.
Okay, because I was curious mostly because at the current rate, I think it would take us something like 700 years of this article to get that caught up, which seems slightly ineffective. At any rate, it is something. So I move the Finance Committee recommend approval Article 12.
I'll second it.
All in favor, Kyle, aye.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I just had a question. It says motion by Finance Committee. We put it forward.
We might even see that.
Good catch.
If that's the way it's been, if you want to make it the board of selectmen, we can certainly do that.
No, that's fine.
That's okay.
Michael, I.
David, I.
600 in favor of Article 12. Article 13, transfer to capital stabilization fund. The way we use this capital stabilization fund, I look at this as just another use of $100,000 for capital. Because it's not like we're building any fund up. As fast as we put it into the stabilization fund, we use it. So.
Well, it's 800 grand.
But we're gonna use it next week.
709,000.
July 1st, we're gonna use it. So So yeah, it gets built up. I take that back. We build it up over 12 months and then we spend it over the next 3 months.
I guess I have a concern about that, which is that this year, the lease payments are covered through capital stabilization at 1.01 million.
But we've got another 100 or so with, the meals tax
Okay.
will come in to supplement it.
Cool. I move approval of Article 13.
I second it.
All in favor, Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
600 recommend Article 13. Article 14, transfer to municipal building insurance fund. We just created this, started to fund it a year or two ago. And we're looking to put another $10,000 in there. So that when there's insurance deductibles, we've got a place to come up with the cash.
I move the Finance Committee recommend approval of Article 14.
I second it.
All in favor, Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
600, Article 14.
Hopefully we don't have to use it for your office again.
Article 15, we've just done. Article 16, the Sampson Fund. The Sampson Fund, if you remember, is a Elizabeth B. Sampson Memorial Fund. We can use the interest every year to do projects. Since I've been involved, we have the same 8 or 10 projects every single year. The trustees are the treasurer, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and the moderator. They're the ones that go through these, make the decisions and do it and recommend it.
I recommend the Finance Committee. I'm sorry.
One question, what is this commemorative book and how do I get a copy?
It's being worked upon by this Kingston 300th committee. And I believe it's supposed to be coming out in 2026 with our 300th anniversary.
I move the Finance Committee recommend approval of Article 16.
Second it.
All in favor, Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
Recommend approval of Sampson Fund expenditures 600. Article 17, Community Preservation Committee Administrative Budget. As you remember, the Community Preservation Committee is the ones that spend those nickel and dimes that we all pay on our real estate taxes. The first article here is for the administrative costs. The sum of $19,775. For the, basically the administrative secretary for the function and the expenses that that department has. And then also, we take 42,000, they're just reclassing from a general fund when the money goes into it to open space, historical preservation, and community housing. So each year, they move so much money into those 3 accounts.
I move the Finance Committee recommend approval of Article 17.
I second it.
All in favor, Kyle, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
Recommend approval of their appropriation and reserve, their administrative expenses and their reserves. 600. The next one here is Article 18, where we vote the individual projects. The first project, now let me go back to my old one here.
While you're looking at that, I'll come back to this. I think I'm gonna say the same thing I said last year.
Okay.
Where's my presentation?
Yep.
I got no presentation. So I would be abstaining. 'Cause I have no idea what the heck any of this stuff is.
Well,
I'll listen to the presentation on town floor and then I'll vote accordingly then.
okay,
I guess moreover, right, like, I take the point in general, but every single one of these was a CPC contested vote. There's dissent on all 4 projects.
Almost one.
Thank you, Michael.
that's
Where are you
because,
getting, oh,
The first
okay,
one.
fine, 4 out of 5. No,
that's because I sit on the CPC.
I was gonna say, you know, that's Carl there.
Okay, you give me the presentation, Carl?
Come on, Carl, tell us what's going on here.
Actually, I think I only voted against 1 or 2 of them, so.
oh, okay.
But I can tell you that the main reason that some other people voted is at least 2 of the more significant articles have to do with taking down trees in the cemeteries. And some of the members of the committee don't like taking down trees, period. And, you know, the people in charge of the cemeteries, the people made the presentations to CPC were adamant that a lot of these trees are dying or they're falling down, they're damaging stones. One, I think it's the old burial ground, they have pictures that there were never any trees there 100 years ago. So they say, you know, what are we worried about trees here? They weren't here 100 years ago.
Well, something's sprouting them and putting them up that high.
Irreplaceable monuments and headstones.
Good fertilizer, real good fertilizer.
So anyhow,
Anyhow,
Article 19, the first one here is the.
No, Article
I
18.
know, I know, that's why I'm trying to use the 2 sets of books I have here. We don't make it easy. The first article is the first project, $24,000 to evaluate the tree growth in the cemetery in an effort to remove threatening trees. And that one, the CPC voted 6-1, so I voted in favor of that one.
tree killer.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of these.
Yeah, that's why I say we gotta, you know.
How are we gonna handle all of these?
That's why I just told you how I'm
I
handling
think we
it.
should do these separately.
Yeah.
I say that reluctantly,
Me
particularly
too.
since it's 7:42, but I do think we should do these separately, and I'm gonna move
Thank you.
the finance committee recommend approval of the CPF appropriation to fund historical tree evaluation at the old burial ground.
Real point of clarification quickly on this. Neither of the lands at the old burial ground or the Evergreen Cemetery are owned by the town, is that correct?
Correct. As far
I
as I
believe
know.
I believe this came up when we had when CPC wanted to use funds to clean headstones in the past. And
Yes.
my issue was this is not town property, so why are we dealing with this? But and I think
Good
that's
catch, Derek.
Where
Yeah.
do these funds come from? Do we appropriate these?
The fertile trees in the cemetery
No.
just
Your
rains down.
real estate tax.
My taxes are
Yes.
paying
Your
for
real
these
estate
things.
tax bill
Okay.
has a separate line
Oh,
item.
yeah.
The community preservation, I gotta pay more attention.
Yeah.
What is it? It's 3%, 1%?
It's 1.5%. The state allows up to 3%. Kingston went to 3% from day one. And then after so many years, they voted it back down to 1.5%. The mistake being that they didn't take it to 0, in my opinion.
Did we skip, I'm sorry, did
Yes,
we
we
skip
did.
the very first one, affordable
Yeah.
housing? Okay,
He might have them in a different order, I guess.
oh,
I just went with what he was starting with.
okay. So that's fine, Michael. All right, I just was like, did I just totally,
No, you're okay.
Also,
So we're starting with the trees.
we're gonna start with the tree. Oh, and Derek has pointed out we don't own this property.
That was discussed at the CPC meeting. And the rationale is that the way the CPC law is written,
Mhm.
it can be used for anything historical to the benefit of the town. I believe that's the way the decisions were made at CPC.
did we run into a similar concern when Mary's
Yes.
son? Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the Eagle project. Yeah. All right. Cool.
I'm sorry, I've got my papers back here. If you want to start the way we
Well,
should.
We,
Well, we have a
yeah, I was
motion,
saying,
don't
we did, I'll go back to the beginning after this.
Okay.
So we're on the tree, the $24,000, correct?
Correct.
In the Evergreens.
The
Oh.
tree growth. Funded project.
I made a
tree growth in
different
the center-
motion,
Oh, I'm
sorry.
sorry. Threatening trees impacted.
Sorry, I didn't realize there were two different ones, because these are not, oh boy.
Oh, there's two of them.
Okay, let's start over again. Never mind that motion. We didn't vote on it.
Start at one.
Okay,
Yeah.
start at one.
Start
30
at one.
and $39,236 going into the Affordable Housing Trust. The Affordable Housing Trust has about $1 million in it. And all of their funds comes from CPC. And the CPC votes to transfer a portion from their so-called, remember I said they have three separate categories. Whatever they have in the housing category, they transfer it into the trust via this article here.
All right, I'm gonna ask the same question. I feel like it's been asked a million times before. Is any of that money getting spent?
No, and I
$1 million.
I always discuss that too at the CPC meetings. What I was told this year by the chairman of the Affordable Housing Committee, Trust, whatever, is that they're working strenuously on a fairly significant project. That if that happened, they would be spending all of the $1 million. And of course, what scared me, they said potentially going for even additional debt financing. But they're working with a developer to do something. I don't think that any more than that can be talked about publicly. I reluctantly voted to transfer the money this year one more time. But as a member of CPC, I said I wasn't going to vote to transfer any more money until we spend some of it. At the time that the trust was set up, it was a controversial item. The treasurer of the town here at that time really fought against it. He did not feel that there should be a separate trust, that it should be money in the CPC account, which is controlled by the town. That trust was voted on at town meeting, and it, was voted as a way of doing it. So now the CPC members feel that the money dedicated to affordable housing in their CPC funds should go to the trust.
What is the form of that trust? Like, how is it controlled if it's not controlled by CPC?
Interest bearing.
It's a legal document, and it has I think the treasurer is a trustee, and I think there are there may be other trustees too.
But it's still, it's an arm of the town. It's just at a weird angle.
But where's the $1 million, if you mentioned $1 million, where is that?
It's in a bank account, or when I was the treasurer, I had it in, I think there was $100,000 in just a regular checking account. And the balance was, for a while, it was in a 12-month CD. And I think that the current treasurer has invested in maybe a treasury bond or something else. So that the town treasurer is responsible for that money, even though it's in separate accounts identified for the trust, not for the town general funds.
But it's funded through the grand list receipts from from tax.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna vote no on this,
I'm-
mostly in hopes of provoking somebody at town meeting, which I cannot attend, to ask and have a minute or two of that conversation. I realize
Not gonna
it is a vain hope,
Not gonna
but it is my hope, and
Not
that is
gonna
why I'm gonna vote no. on
Not
it.
gonna
Okay,
happen.
so
I
do
would
we,
vote no too, because I would like to know what these several new housing projects that are being proposed in Kingston, what they are. Because from where my vantage point on the zoning board, there's nothing being proposed in Kingston.
And having worked for a real estate developer, I can tell you they're not gonna want to disclose that until they
Exactly.
get everything in line.
Again, but then
okay.
don't ask me for
let-
money
let's-
if you're
let's
not gonna
vote it.
tell me what it's
Let's
going
vote it.
for.
Let's vote it.
Well, we were giving them money before we even, but before there was even the proposal of development. So I think that might not necessarily be the logic.
But that's what their warrant
has.
article says.
I move the finance committee recommend favorable action on the community preservation fund appropriation to the Affordable Housing Trust within Article 18.
Second.
All in favor? Kyle, aye. Do I have any other ayes?
Derek, I.
All opposed?
Marcia opposed.
I'm gonna abstain.
Michael, no.
Dave, no.
We have 2 in favor, 3 opposed, and 1 abstained, correct?
Yep.
Did I get that correct? 2, 3, 1. Okay, the next one is $6,350 to replace the temporary roof on the Jack Berry Boathouse. This one, you can see CPC voted 4-3. That there was a lot of discussion on whether it was the CPC funds were eligible for this type of a project. The historical
Sorry, I hate to beat a dead horse, but given the fact that we voted against recommendation of those funds from the CPC, those funds have already been collected. So where do they go now? Is that just going to hang out in some account somewhere? Like, it's not as if we just saved the town that money. Those funds are.
That's correct. And
Those funds are.
whatever we vote, all we're doing is telling town meeting our recommendation. If town meeting votes to not do this, then it just stays in the CPC funds. If they vote to do it, they go and do the project.
Right. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that it's not as if we just saved the town that money. That those receipts have already been collected.
Correct. Okay, so, did,
Where is the Jack
Back to the
Berry
boathouse.
Boathouse.
Where is it?
Who was Jack Berry?
isn't
Is
that
it in
old?
your backyard? No, I don't.
I thought everybody knew it. I didn't want to ask.
Oh, I was right there with you.
It's over by the river. I know that.
Well, of course.
Oh, is it the Jones River?
Yeah, yes.
It's
yeah.
Jones
Now,
River.
just-
Boathouse?
I think it's.
If it doesn't show up on Google, I'm voting no.
When you go.
It
isn't
does
when
not
you-
show
when
up
you-
on Google. I can save you time on that. I already looked.
When you go through that group, that bad bridge, down there on the right.
Which one?
Okay,
All right,
can we vote it though?
sure.
No.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of the community preservation fund appropriation on replacement of temporary roof on the Jackberry Boathouse, whatever that may be.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Kyle, aye.
Derek,
Any other in favor? All opposed?
Marcia, no.
I'm abstaining.
I abstain.
I'm abstaining.
I mean, if they don't think their funds, it's an appropriate use, they should know.
That.
Okay, Derek, did you vote?
yes, I'm I. So I believe we're 2-1-3 is the vote.
Perfect.
Build the Deborah Moran boathouse and.
They were 4-3.
Oh, boy.
Okay, now we're back to the $24,000 for the Evergreen Cemetery trees.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of the community preservation fund appropriation from the Evergreen Cemetery Historic Preservation.
I'll second it, but I didn't see 24,000, I
It's up
see.
top.
It's
That's
Oh,
why,
is
that's
it?
why I screwed up the first time.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah,
I
that's why I
second it.
screwed up.
Oh, you're right, yep.
All in favor? Kyle, aye. Anybody else in favor?
Michael, I.
All opposed?
Marcia opposed.
I'm gonna abstain.
Abstain.
Derek opposed.
2-2-2. The old burial grounds, $65,000 to clean it up and get rid of trees.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of community preservation fund appropriation to fund historical tree evaluation at the old burying ground.
I second it.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
3 in favor, all opposed.
Derek
All of-
opposed.
Well,
Do we own the old burial ground? Is this town property? The old burying ground.
I have no idea.
No idea. Let me ask them. Oh, they're not here.
I just,
Abstain.
I'm gonna abstain, I guess. I don't-
Okay, we have 3-0-3. Anybody
No.
opposed?
3-1.
Derek.
3-1-2.
3-1-2. Thank you.
I'm impressed with managed 4 different vote counts for the first 4 projects.
Perfect.
Getting late, that's fine.
We have 12 articles left.
I
All right, keep it
know.
going. Next one.
Come on, move it along, buddy.
The next one is
39 to
third.
36. It's more.
This is the
It's
Bates Pond
68,
project?
total.
Oh, 68,
It's
you're right.
total, it's $68,223 for the engineering on a ADA compliant trail for around the buildings right here.
Where is the Bates Pond?
Over there.
Over there.
A trail, it just doesn't seem like a particularly attractive.
It's gonna be
place.
beautiful.
Okay.
Trust me.
There's
This
already a
one-
trail there now, I believe.
Oh, Okay, thank you, Darren.
This
But
one.
is it ADA compliant?
It is
you'll
not
find-
ADA compliant, but hey, I can bring my stroller on it now, so there you go.
Oh,
if
for
we
just
approve it.
$83,000.
Your finance committee representative on the committee was the one who voted against this. Because I found it difficult to spend $83,000 engineering this pathway before we even do any construction work.
With discussion and to move things along, I move the finance committee recommend approval, of community preservation fund appropriation, fund the Bates Pond accessible trail project.
I second it.
Does anybody want to discuss it any further? Comment, make questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Derek, I.
Any other people in favor? All opposed? Kyle, I.
Marsha, I.
I'm abstaining.
I abstain.
I abstain.
So we got 1, 2, 3.
We did it. 5 different votes.
Okay. Article 20, or no, let me go
19.
back.
19.
Article 19, the elected officials compensation, we already voted that.
Yay. Oh, that's right, last time.
Um,
Who voted no?
Article 20, the. Article 20 is the wage and personnel bylaw. I don't know, I think we distributed copies of the bylaw. To me, the only thing I ever look at this is that they want to award, increases of $53,829, $47,314, which are applicable to the general fund, with the balance being applicable to the wastewater and the water. This is basically the 2% cost of living increase plus step increases where applicable.
I move the finance committee
Before
recommend.
you do that, I'd just like to make one comment here. My time on the finance committee, we've always talked about the problem of step increases and cost of living increases in units, specifically teacher union contracts. That, we've always felt that's a problem. Well, we've never focused on it, but it's the same problem that we have right here in the regular employees here. The wage and personnel schedules have step increases. Plus, there's always a cost of living increase that's put in. So that's why when we're doing budgets and somebody will say, well, how come we've got 5% increases in labor? Well, the reason is because if you're getting a lot of turnover in your employees, you've got people that are going up a step every year, and built into those steps, specifically in the wage and personnel Schedule D, which is our so-called new, professional level schedule. The increases step to step are always about 3%. So if you give them 2%, you're really in a 5% increase environment. And then we wonder why we have budget problems when we're trying to do 2.5% plus say 1% or so for growth. So talking about, let's call it the 4% that I keep saying the town can live with 4% budget increases. Well, when we have built into our employment schedules, rate schedules, 3% plus cost of living, it's more of my just making a comment so that we'll understand where the costs come from.
And that schedule, it's a 10-year schedule, right?
10 steps, yeah.
10
10
steps.
steps.
Yeah.
I've kind of been thinking about this lately, and I'm wondering, because of those 10 steps, does that lead somehow to our turnover rate?
You want there
Because,
to be more or less.
well, the reasoning being after 10 years, you're maxed out.
Or you
You're
just get
just-
your role reclassified, which we saw a number of this year.
Yeah, and then the role reclassification, that thing, I don't like either. So, I don't know. I think something should be looked at. And I'll just give an example. So like for the federal government, we have 10 steps too. But we don't go up one every year. The
Yeah.
first 3 years, you go up every year, then it's every 2 years, then it's every 3 years. But what I'm saying is, how much turnover are we getting because people are maxing out at that 10-year mark, and then they're just saying, hey, can I move on? Can I move to a bigger town and make more money? Yada, 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 yada. And maybe we need to look at that thing again and maybe tinker with it.
I want to say ours is either 15 or 16, and my impression is that that's pretty standard within schools. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just
it's a
throwing
good-
that
Yeah,
out
it's a
but
there.
good
they
question.
just did a personnel
I-
study.
I mean, in the publics or if we're talking about in the private sector, the whole idea of a guaranteed increase every single year is not something that anyone looks at. I mean, we're looking
Amen.
Thank you.
Yes.
that individuals are getting a 2% cost of living increase along with a step increase. So you're looking at two essentially guaranteed increases your first 10 years and then a guaranteed increase thereafter related to cost of living. I don't really foresee this as anything that's causing individuals to leave.
I do just feel slightly
Well, we're-
obligated as a public sector employee to just point out, the flip side is there's also no possibility of bonuses of any form in this type of position.
Sure. But then we're getting the reclassification.
Yep.
To your point.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
All right.
anyways, just throw it out there.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 20.
Second.
All in favor? Carl, I.
Michael, I.
David.
Derek, I.
Yeah.
600 for the wage and personnel.
Did wage and personnel vote? What was their vote?
They voted for you.
Okay.
I apologize.
3-0 or 2-0? Do they?
I
have-
apologize.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they only have 2 members, so there's there's an opening for you on wage and
Oh, I
personnel.
can barely do this one.
Seriously.
Stormwater.
Article 21. This is one that, you probably recognize. We have been providing $70,000 a year now for probably 4 years in the equipment article for this so-called storm sewer water problem, environmental.
WOTUS.
Environmental Protection Agency. What happened here, I think it was kind of missed until the last minute. And so we've put it in, or it's been put in as a separate article. It's going to be raise and appropriate. So it's coming in through that method that I personally would have preferred to see it coming from free cash. But free cash is, as we try to, maintain a somewhat of a routine, normal level of free cash. And we also just don't have a lot of this coming out of the excess levy capacity is probably a better way of doing it than trying to take it out of free cash at this stage of the game, because we're so low in excess levy capacity anyway.
All right, I move the Finance Committee recommend approval of Article 21.
I'll second.
All in favor, Carl, I.
I'm going to abstain because I have really no idea what it's about.
Okay,
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Derek, I.
so we have 5-0-1.
That's, I believe, the subject of some fairly substantial litigation. I don't know if that'll have any effect on it.
Yeah, it seems to me that it's, is it like, it was at least 5 years that we had to do that. $350,000, 500,000, something.
I don't remember. I wasn't on capital plan for that long. I do not remember doing it.
It's never been on capital plan.
Not a small.
You need a
Okay.
stormwater discharge permit from the Board of Engineers? Is that what this is?
I don't know.
Okay, so this is for a stormwater discharge permit. The town of Kingston has to pay for every year. I think the article could be more directly worded. If we are is the town discharging stormwater into public waterways?
This term is stormwater.
Well,
This is the type of thing that you can talk to Matt
Okay.
Pinella
Okay.
anytime. He'll give you a lot of basis on
I
it.
just think in terms of, so the citizens understand what this is.
I'd be happy to try to rewrite it for next year.
And I'll be happy to talk to Matt.
Leave Woden in there. Yeah, I'll enjoy seeing that every year.
Article 22, reallocate prior year appropriation. This is a case where the town is taking $50,000 from an unexpended article back in 23 to be expended for an update to the complete streets plan, along with pedestrian road and pedestrian safety projects. So Keith, I guess I'll ask you to explain this. Isn't this just another one of those capital item type of things that we're trying to do with the improving the safety and the sidewalks?
So we have to, the town of Kingston has adopted a complete streets plan. That complete streets plan is something that we have to have in place to apply for grant funds for the complete street program. The complete street, the complete street plan has to be updated periodically to stay valid and will allow us to continue to apply for grants. This complete street plan has not been updated for a number of years. The $50,000 was approved in 2023 for road improvements that never were done. So we'd like to reallocate that to get this complete streets programs updated so we can continue to apply for grant funds.
Do you know, have we gotten any other grant except for the one up at the corner here of Cumberland Farms through this plan?
We have, and I'm happy to provide the FinCom a list of those,
No,
but I don't have those readily available.
but it was more than just that one-time thing.
Yes.
Okay.
move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 22.
A second it.
All in favor?
Michael, I.
Not David.
Derek, I.
Marcia, I.
Debbie, I.
All opposed? Kyle opposed. So we have 5-1-0. Waterways improvement funds appropriation. Just moving, just authorizing $8,788 of the Waterways Improvement Fund to be going into the, in effect, the reserve where the Board of Selectmen can authorize expenditures. It will get that up to the $35,000 funding limit. And there's a balance in the fund of $145,000.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 23.
A second it.
All in favor? Kyle, I.
Debbie, I.
Michael, I.
David, I.
Marcia, I.
Derek, I.
6-0-0. And I believe that.
No.
Okay.
25.
What about 24?
No, you don't want to go there.
Oh, okay. It's not gonna be on the warrant,
Creation of Public Works Department.
It's not finance.
but it's still gonna be on the warrant.
Yes.
Not directly.
No, we don't have to vote 24 because
Okay.
it's not a financial article.
Well,
Well, it will be if
Yeah,
it's
I-
approved. Because we'll have another, professional position.
We'll be saving money.
Oh, how?
I don't know.
Come on.
They're gonna tell
It's
us.
just- I think it's-
We'll worry about that when we get
Moving
there.
on.
Okay, I will,
We
no,
didn't want our vote.
I will,
Speak at town meeting.
I'd like to survey the committee. Who wants to vote, this article?
24.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought we didn't need to.
just.
He's just throwing it out there.
Oh, I think we should vote it. It
That's
goes
why
to your
I'm-
point.
That's why I'm
This
throwing
is
it
the
out.
future. I mean, another professional position, subject to the wage and personnel. It's gonna
Okay,
be a big-
I have one person who
item.
wants to vote Article 24. Is there anyone else that wants to vote Article 24?
Has council opined as to whether or not we need to vote on this? Keith?
Probably not.
They have not opined on it. It's not a financial issue, so you don't have to. Just
Yeah,
wait.
I would prefer not to in that case, but I'll defer to the committee as the
I'm not
majority.
I'm not
Way on
prepared to
that.
vote for
Yeah.
it tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain if we do vote.
And I don't want to vote on it. So you're overruled in this
Okay.
case, but we tried. to-
Yeah,
to
thank you,
see.
Carl. I appreciate the support.
25 and 26 are very substantially similar, right?
Oh, yes, that's right.
The way I summarize 25 and 26 is, one more time, trying to provide, benefit to a minority, group. And, so it does have a financial impact so that, we should vote it. I'm gonna personally vote against 25 and 26 and 27.
I think I asked last time this happened, but like, so we're increasing the exemption, like for 25 by $25, how appropriate, right? So what is that, how does that change the bottom line number? Like how many people does that affect? How much money are we talking about?
So it affects all the veterans in town.
Yep,
The Article 25 would allow for a cost of living increase. For the veterans exemption, on an annual basis. Right now, it's been consistent from there's been no cost, there's been no change in the exemption granted. It's been a static number. The legislature approved the opportunity for communities locally to allow for a cost of living adjustment annually on the exemption for veterans.
Right.
The cost for this is being funded through overlay that's raised on our property tax recap. We have funds enough in our overlay for fiscal 26, so we didn't need to raise any additional money to fund the request by the Board of Assessors.
I would argue that in the long run, it's taking money out of non-veterans pockets
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
putting it into that.
How much?
That's what I'm trying to figure.
$25 times what?
No, but then the
There are
next. one-
475 veterans in Kingston, so
So
You-
approximately,
Well, but that's this is per house. It's not
this is per
person.
house. So I would say divide that in half, and so you're looking at probably 250 houses that would be able to take advantage of that.
Right.
thank you.
Did the assessors vote for it?
Yes.
Oh, it does say that. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 25.
Second it.
All in favor?
Michael, I.
David, I.
All
Debbie, aye.
opposed?
Debbie, I.
Okay, we have 3 in favor. Do we have any more in favor? All opposed? Carl opposed?
Marcia opposed.
Derek opposed.
3-3. Article 26, which is the same type of article, only you can add 50% on to your $1,000. And now instead of having $1,000, you got $1,500, and then you can increase that every year by
2.5%, it looks like, or
If I could, Mr. Chair, just for informational purposes, the increase could be from 1,000 to 2,000. The Board of Assessors chose to step that in and propose 1,500 rather than 2,000 this year.
Does anybody want any more information on this one?
Is the effect of this actually, is the effect of the exemption that is simply a subtraction from what would otherwise, like a straight subtraction? Okay.
Kind of like a tax break.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm,
It's
as
really
opposed
great.
to, as like an exemption from a rate is what I'm
Precisely.
getting.
It's not, it's
Yeah.
better than an exemption.
All right, I move the finance committee recommend approval of Article 26.
I second it.
All in favor?
David, I.
Michael, I.
All opposed? Carl opposed?
Marcia opposed.
I oppose, although I think they work together, right? Is that what it
Not,
says?
they don't have to.
No,
I mean, they
okay,
do,
all
they
right.
don't have, they're not up there.
That's fine. I mean, 25 and 500 too. Pretty
Derek
similar.
opposed.
So we have
2-4.
2-4 on this one. Article 27, establish a taxation aid. I can't even read this one.
Did you put this for?
We have to vote.
Board of Assessors didn't vote on it.
So this was brought forward and requested by the tax collector. This is the legislation that allows for taxpayers to voluntarily donate any amount of money that would go into a fund that would be administered by the chairman of the board of assessors, 3 residents, be appointed by the board of selectmen. And they would determine what could be provided for assistance to be paid towards their property tax bill with these donations.
Are there like functional models of this in any other community?
They just got done.
Oh, no.
This is in
They
addition
created
to our,
Boy, right?
would be in addition to our work-off program that we already offer.
Yes,
Good.
because this would be for, it could be for anybody. The workout program is typically for seniors.
Don't the selectmen already have something similar?
The selectmen have a fund that a person can apply for assistance once in a lifetime, so to speak. So there is relief that way as well, certainly, and we get.
Hasn't been one in a
maybe half
while.
dozen. No, we had one a couple weeks ago,
Did it?
maybe a month ago.
I missed that meeting.
Mr. Pike has argued
Like
in the
Pokemon.
past.
Can't catch them all.
Mr. Pike has argued in the past that a better way for the town to help people that can't afford to pay their tax bills is to increase the taxes at a rate not to exceed 2.5% year after year after year.
This says it would just be for elderly and disabled persons of low income.
Yes.
What would the low income cutoff be? I mean, how many people would this serve in? I'm just trying.
I don't know if it's even a financial matter that we need to vote on, because it's
There
forming a
would be-
committee that that donations are gonna go into.
It's gonna
So it's not
create
gonna-
this fund though.
It's not
that-
gonna impact the taxes at all.
Yeah, I'm fine with not. I agree with
I'd
you.
pass on that.
Okay, anybody really want to vote on 27? I have no
I
problem.
mean,
saying-
I would be voting it down because this just seems more like it seems like it's coming from the right place, but from a logistical standpoint, I just see this taking up resources that could be better used elsewhere within our town and the town staff.
I agree with Derek.
Question how
But
much
it's a
it's gonna
committee.
pull in. I mean,
What committee? Can't even
It's-
fill this
I
committee.
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
I-
what's
yeah.
what's a
Vote and
giraffe?
vote it down.
A horse designed by a committee. Come on, we all see how
Let's have a
effective we
let's
are.
have
Make a motion. I'm not going to, because I don't want to vote on this.
I don't either.
I make a motion to approve Article 27 to establish a tax aid committee.
Second,
All in favor? Hearing none. All opposed? Kyle
Derek
opposed.
opposed.
Marcia opposed.
David opposed.
Debbie abstaining.
Michael opposed.
Derek opposed.
0-5.
051.
We had an 8 o'clock deadline. We missed it. We missed
Oh,
that 8 o'clock.
Wait a minute, none of the other four are listed for us to vote on.
I don't
We
believe.
don't have to vote on the zoning.
The conveyance of property, the mixed use overlay.
Article 28 is after for acceptance for the property, you really don't have to vote.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I see they changed it.
As far as I'm concerned, we're done. We're done on the warrant.
We still have agenda items here.
The So,
FY budget access levy.
0.
one more, yeah, we'll discuss that. The excess levy capacity at this time that I gave you the summary that Kathleen prepared for us. We have excess levy capacity of $21,656.
Can you repeat that number, Carl?
$21,656. And that, to put that in perspective, 2 years ago, we probably had $2.5 million. Last year, even with all the education problems, we managed to end up with almost 900,000, okay? So that what that has done, it's allowed us to avoid a Proposition 2.5 override this year by, having $2 million last year, 2 million plus that supported the big education increase that reduced it down to this 900K. And now we've used all of this 900K to take care of the problems this year without going to a 2.5 override. So guess what? If we don't do some very strong belt tightening across the board, including education, that, you know, we can all stand up and be ready to see a 2.5 override next year. A request for a 2.5 override. We all have to remember that it's the voters that will determine, as we just saw in Duxbury, where Duxbury said, no, thank you. We're not going to vote for a $5.8 million override. And in some ways, I think that's what Kingston needs. The Kingston needs to have a tremendous override rejected and be forced to make some serious cuts to recognize that, and part of it's the people themselves. People keep demanding or wanting extra services. And, you know, if they are not willing to pay for it in an override, then you have to face the problem. But
The problem I have with the Duxbury example, is that from what I understand, it was just the schools that took the hit, that they managed to somehow spare the cuts to the firefighters.
Firefighters, they had about $1.6 million on the outside. My understanding includes 2 firefighters, 2 police officers.
But not the 30 that they were, you know, talking about, but it did really eviscerate their schools.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can I maybe, given the hour, ask as kind of a point of personal privilege as someone who is very directly in this,
Yeah.
that we maybe move on from?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just don't, that's why I don't.
I appreciate that, but
think
like,
that schools should take the
this
hit.
is a little much for
I'm
8:30.
sorry.
okay, so we know where we stand on the excess levy capacity. Free cash. We are at about 750. Does that sound right? What's that?
693.
693.
Yes, sir.
So we're at approximately 700,000 in free cash.
That will increase by Mr. Pike, depending on whether or not those 3 grants are funded.
Right.
So just so you're aware, that can go up by $300,000.
So
But
that is one of the reasons I voted against those particular items.
It could go up by,
So the 3 the 3 projects in the capital plan, the capital article which you voted on for the engineering
Green Street.
purposes are funded, the local share is funded through free cash. So if we were not successful in getting one or more of those 3 grants, whatever was appropriated from free cash would not be expended, we would stay in free cash. Increase in $650,000 free cash, I'm sorry, $593,000. $693,000, that free cash number is something greater.
So right now we're at 693.
I understand that. I'm
Alright.
just trying to go back to that grant discussion. And it doesn't, what you said doesn't jive with that, what we talked about during that
So
discussion.
the
I think it-
693,000 is the balance after all of the capital projects that were proposed and approved by this group.
But I thought we didn't spend that money unless
Yeah,
we
well,
got the
yeah,
grant.
yeah,
So
that's-
why,
That's
Right,
why it
so-
will come, it will stay in free cash.
but so
right
we already
now-
deducted it from free cash?
We
That-
have to
Projected.
deduct it, we, on paper, we deduct it from free cash, to show you and the rest of the town what we will have left if all of the articles that are using free cash are approved. If
Thank
they're
you.
not approved, then that free cash number will increase. So worst case scenario, it's at 693.
And see, that's why I
understand.
voted against
Against
those articles, because I
Increase
believe
free cash.
it's more important that we have some free cash for emergencies as opposed to, you know, making it safer to drive around the corner on a bicycle.
Yeah,
that
that,
type of
I
thing.
appreciate that, Carly.
It being the next item I had here was the discuss the plan for the 4/8/25 budget review meeting with the selectmen. I invite anybody that wants to go to the selectmen meeting Tuesday night to come. I will probably post a finance committee meeting. I don't expect that we'll have to do anything. That, you know, if the selectmen vote to approve the budget the way we just did, it's a moot point. If they vote not to accept the $25,000 change we made for the library, then we might get into a discussion of, you know, if we're going to try to compromise at a middle number, or to just say, hey, the finance committee will back off, and see what we're gonna do.
Is that the only discrepancy?
Yeah.
That's $25,000?
Far as I know.
I believe that was very-
Yeah. So anyhow, Rhonda, can you make sure that we post for our finance committee meeting Tuesday night with the selectmen? Even though I don't think we don't have to, you know, sit any special place or anything. So with that, I think that, our next meeting. There.
We have on the calendar,
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
on the agenda.
Four.
Oh.
Thank you. 4, 6. Yeah, if nothing else comes up, then I don't think we'll need to have a meeting on the 16th. But let's keep it as a possibility, just in case we suddenly find, some revenue that we wanna put back in the system.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, does anybody else, any other comments from the finance committee members?
I'll move the finance committee meeting adjourn its meeting of Wednesday, April 2nd at 8:31 PM.
I second it.
All in favor, Kyle, aye.
Marcia, aye.
Debbie, I.
Michael, aye.
David, Thank you.
Derek, aye.
Thank you.
Hi,
Thank you.
appreciate it.